we are live.
You wouldn't know if there weren't fingers.
So, greetings to all you out there in cyberspace and those following us on the dark web. Your package should arrive any day now. You are it. Thank you. See you next week. You are it. What is it?
Giant game of tag.
God playing hide and seek from herself. You are it, and the question is, what is it? And that's what we're all here to explore. That's what we signed up for. That's the workshop that you enrolled in some decades ago. You paid your tuition. You said, I want to explore it. And then you got the bad news. Well, you can. The good news is, yes, you can explore. You can go do the workshop. The bad news is, in order to do that, you have to put on this meat suit. And you have to shrink your consciousness down. And you have to take this pill, which will make you believe that the illusion you're in is real. How's that work? And you said yes. We all said yes. Not even knowing, probably, what we were saying yes to. It sounded interesting. Maybe they forgot to tell us about the pain and suffering part. Full disclosure, it was in the fine print. But you bought your ticket. We all bought our ticket. It's time to ride the ride. We've been riding the ride. But let our explorations be broadened so that we keep one eye on the matrix. Let these eyes can explore the holodeck and all of the magnificent realities that are created there. But let this eye always be on the matrix. The understanding that this is laser tag. This is the holodeck. This is the matrix. This is playland for the soul. The soul is here to garner sensations, experiences, and yes, even to suffer. Even to experience pain. Because the ride we signed on for is the world of duality. And in the world of duality, up cannot exist without down. In cannot exist without out. There is no foreground without background. You know, we've been taught that space is this vacuum. It's just emptiness. And then in this emptiness, in this nothing, we insert objects, right? Planets, stars, asteroids, meteors. But that can't be. That's an absurdity. There can't be foreground without background. Now there can be something without nothing. There can be something. There cannot be something without nothing. But at the same time, what we perceive as nothing is actually something. Now, I hope I've got your mind in a knot because that's where I want it. So just shut that sucker down. Because now we're going to get to what the real nitty-gritty of the workshop is. And that's feeling. Because this was the piece that was missing where you were when you signed up for the workshop. There was ecstasy, but it was unnoticed. Did you ever walk into a room, walk into your own home, and go, something smells funny? But then 5 minutes later, you're not even thinking about that because you don't smell it anymore. That's the way we were. We were in ecstasy, but it was like asking, if we had asked you what ecstasy was, you wouldn't even have had words. You wouldn't have known. It's like asking a fish, what is water? I don't know. What is water? Don't know. So, to have really to experience feeling, there has to be this push and pull of opposites. There has to be a down for every up. There has to be an in for every out. And in that dynamic, that pull between positive and negative, we get this illusion of solidity. That's how matter happens. Matter is not solid. But there's this thing called a magnetic force. And so when we set up opposites, when we set up polarities, we create a magnetic force. So I can't put my hand through this stage because the magnetic force on the surface of the molecules on my hand meet the magnetic force of the surface of the molecules on the stage, and it stops it. But there's plenty of space for my molecules to move through those molecules. There's more space than there are molecules. So it's this magnetic force that comes out of polarity that gives us the material plane, the earth plane, matter, energy, these things we call objects. And gives us our meat suits, gives us the friction and the gravity and the polarity that we need in order to have true experience of feelings. And so, the joke is, some would call it a sick joke, is that we end up whining and complaining about the very thing that we signed up for. I don't want there to be any pain. I don't want there to be any shadow. I don't want darkness. I just want light all the time. I want to be ecstatic all the time. I want to be loving all the time. And I say to you, that's where you came from. That's where you will return. You're on vacation in Painland. But there's also Joyland. It's one guru that I dabbled in for a while once said, no shitty, no pretty. It's true. If we didn't have sorrow, how could we know joy? Much of the 1970s, I lived out in California. And I moved back to the Midwest. And there are a variety of reasons, but one of the things that I was grateful for moving back to the Midwest was the seasons. I missed the seasons. I even missed this. Cold and snowy. Because of the contrast. No one has a greater joy in the summertime than I do. I love my summertime. People go, oh, it's too hot, it's too humid. Shut up. Summertime. But why do I love summertime so much? Days like today. It's the contrast. Contrast. In television, right, Andre? Without contrast, you have nothing. There's no picture there. It's all about contrast. So here's what I want to get to, and it was reflected in the reading that Billy did, is that we spend a lot of time gnashing our teeth about our experience, and instead of taking some kind of rational action to change the experience, we wallow in the complainingness of it. And I say wallow in because there is a juice to it. Victimization has potency. It has flavor. It has juiciness. I've been, we've all done it. We've all played the victim. And it has a certain allure. Oh, woe is me. And just being helpless has a certain appeal to it. Now, I think there's a key there. There's a clue. Why would I feel something positive out of being helpless? Because one of the aspects of helplessness is there's a certain surrender in it. And I say, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Let's pluck out the surrender element of it. Throw the rest down the drain. What is it about the surrender that makes us feel so good? It's like going to bed. It's like laying down in bed at night, turning out the lights, pulling the covers over your head, and going, ah. You ever have? Am I the only one that has that feeling? There's a certain peace that comes with just letting go. And that's the juiciness of surrender, which then finds itself embedded in things like victimization. And that's why victimization, one of the reasons it's so addictive. So let's find a way to surrender without being victimized. Let's find a way to be in surrender and be empowered at the same time. And this is where language starts to get fuzzy, because language was developed in order to help us navigate a polarity, the material world. And so language itself is polarized. There's nothing I can say, there's nothing anybody can say that doesn't immediately, automatically engender its opposite. So to try to speak truth is difficult in language. But let's for a moment consider the possibility that we can be both cause and effect. We can be both subject and predicate, subject and object. That we can be the doer and the deed. And there is an element of assuming responsibility, while at the same time relinquishing responsibility. It's the razor's edge. It's the border between volition and surrender. That's the gap. That's the place where power exists. That's the place where true creativity is available. And it's the place where the awareness of the illusion comes into focus. And of course, the illusion is, one of the principal elements of the illusion is that I am in here and all y'all and everything else is out there. That I'm contained in this bag of skin. And that everything that's out there is not me. There's me and not me. Again, the duality that gives us the playground, that facilitates the playground in which we dance. I couldn't dance with you if there wasn't an illusion of some separateness. And so we came here to dance. But the illusion of separateness is what makes us mean. It's what brings in the fear. Well, you are you. And I know you at a certain level, but there's a lot of you I'm not really familiar with. And so there may be something in you that will overcome me in some way. So there's this, it's almost like why I can't put my hand through the wood on the stage. It's why you and I can't really become one. Because there's this magnetic force that's kind of creating this barrier between us. Does that seem relative to your experience? That no matter how close you try to get to somebody, maybe even your own child or your own parent, that there's some invisible force in between us that's kind of keeping us separate. And that's part of the way the game is wired up, and that's okay. But when you see that, when that becomes visible, when that becomes part of your awareness, then there's some element of that force that begins to weaken, and there's some gateway that opens in that gap between volition and surrender, where that magnetic force between I and thou begins to weaken. And we can begin to have this energy exchange that's unfettered by the boundaries of I and thou. And this is what I call communion. This is true communion. Jesus said, this is my body, this is my blood. He was offering a clue about, even though we are flesh and blood, there is a sharing that can happen. There is a common exchange that can happen when we are in that gap where fear dissolves. Because in that gap, fear has no efficacy. In that gap, there is only the perfect moment. There is only the perfect now. There is only the opportunity to push the envelope farther and farther so that we can really explore this playground we came to explore, and we can truly dance as one in the world of meat suits and me and you. And that's the beauty of it. So the game is about rejecting victimhood, but maintaining the idea of surrender and the peace that can come with it, while at the same time accepting responsibility for being the cause in my life. Because. Why? Because. Taking responsibility for our experience empowers us and allows us to have the confidence to surrender and be in that gap where you and I can truly meet. And I'll leave the rest up to Ruby. Go home and read your Ruby. And I'll meet you there. So, good morning, Mrs. Drapkin.